Hey, this is Matt O'Leary, and I am back on that music review train, back on that music recommendation train. I'm back on many trains. Today I'll be reviewing the second album from the eclectic virtuosos, Thank You Scientist. This is a band that I discovered back in, I want to say, 2014 at a Coheed and Cambria show. It was their Never Ender tour of In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. So I was incredibly excited, overjoyed, and just giddy for that show. And I was able to check out their music a little bit ahead of time, which I usually like to do with opening bands, especially shows that I'm really looking forward to. It was something I felt like I'd never heard before. It was a brand of progressive metal, but with added horns, violins, and just so many different styles thrown in. But live, this band they blew me and my wife away. My wife especially was just incredibly entertained by them. It was probably her favorite part of the show, to be honest. They're a sextet? No, that'd be six. I think they have 7 members. Septet? Such a big sound, so many different things going on at the same time. Their guitarist, Tom Monda, is this little guy who looks like Michael Cera, and he's playing this fretless guitar like right in front of us, and it's just, he's pulling off Petrucci level solos. I think it was one of those performances that brought me back that understanding of how potent and powerful live music can be. And yeah, just one of the best opening bands I've ever seen. This band's debut record from that year, 2014, Maps of Non-Existent Places, is just an onslaught of jazz, funk, prog metal madness. I mean, this band is just slinging the kitchen sink through your face. Although that kind of makes it sound really heavy, and it's heavy, but not in the death metal, the black metal sort of way. It's very mathy, it's very technical, but it's also very lighthearted, with Sal's vocals placing the melodic cherry on top. With the second record, they bookend it with some Queen theatrics, kind of setting up their sound and their performance as this grand spectacle not to be missed. On the prologue here, they begin everything with these very Deer Hunter-esque, very thick vocal harmonies. Then they quickly go full cabaret with a slinking bass line and very Brian May style guitar leads. With this prologue, they're really only hinting at some of the metal aspects of the band, and instead showcasing, just like on their last album opener, they did kind of the same thing with these big vocals. Just how versatile and melodically oriented they are. And the production improvements are really evident right away. If you listen to Sal's voice just sort of subtly slip in and out of the arrangement, kind of thrusting him in and out of the spotlight when necessary. Then Thank You Scientists hit us with that little slice of pop in this maelstrom of technicality on my favorite chorus on the album, on the Somnabulist. I don't know what that means. Everything we know and love about Thank You Scientist is there on this opener. It really got it started with just this intensity and this balls to the walls style with chugging violins and Eastern guitar riffs. A couple tracks later we have the very fun, very funky Mr. Invisible, which I think is a compositional high point on this thing. I heard that they wrote the whole album on acoustic guitars before putting the instrumentation and the arrangements in place, and I think this approach really makes the chord changes more interesting and engaging. And as good as the songwriting is, I'm also really impressed with the instrumentation, with the production, and just how they piece this puzzle together on each song. It really takes a few listens to hear the little tone changes and just every careful instrumental decision that they made. And I think this is a really big compliment, because it'd be easy for this to come off as mechanical, but it ends up being very natural. In the very quirky instrumental track Rube Goldberg Variations, all of a sudden this cacophonous vintage drum sound just violently shifts into this very low fidelity, this super compressed drum sound that sounds a little more hip-hoppy. It's really a jarring transition, but one that's very effective and attention-grabbing. I think the drummer in this band, Odin Alvarez, is really an unsung hero. just for how he complements all these stylistic variations within one of their songs, especially that Latin sound he does really well. On this instrumental track, each guy really gets to display their talents, but it doesn't sacrifice the musicality of it all. Another just fantastically instrumentally varied one is the last proper song on this album, the Amateur Arsonist Handbook. Among this amalgam of swooping supporting lines on this song, we get these echoing murder mystery-ish horns around the 2-minute mark that just sound like nothing they've ever produced to this point. Or that almost jock rock basketball anthem guitar tone that opens this track and then resurfaces at the very end. Moments like that of just those little touches can be fleeting, but this album's just chock full of that attention to detail. And do not forget the Ben Karras electric violin solo on that song. I was right in front of this guy at the show, and he was like a Tolkien goblin up there prancing around. My one sort of critical point for this album, Stranger Heads Prevail, I realize I haven't said that to this point, is that some of the songs really don't have the same sort of melodic, fulfilling payoff that songs on Maps of Non-Existent Places did. Like in A Wolf in Cheap Clothing, that song, periodically throughout it there are these dynamic builds, but the song never really reaches its melodic peak that I'm waiting for. And I'm left kind of thinking, at least in my brain, like, this is good music. I know this is good music, and I appreciate it, but I don't necessarily feel that. This falls in line with some of the biggest criticism that music this technical, this mathy, this proggy gets, is that it indulges itself with all head and no heart. I think as a music fan, I enjoy this intellectual part of music a little more than most people, kind of attending to the time signatures and the angular riffs and the stacked harmonies. But I'll definitely admit that this sort of endless noodling can get a little stale, if not used with purpose and in moderation. For me, I learned to appreciate and enjoy the technical parts of the music more when it leads to some sort of big payoff, and usually this comes in the form of a poppier sort of sing-along chorus or bridge. Coheed is a band that does this better than anyone. I mean, just listen to the song Everything Evil or Gravity's Union. The ends of those songs, all of this work you did to get there is finally worth it, and it just comes to life, and it's just chill-inducing. I think Thank You Scientist is really a band that strives for this exact thing, and for the most part they pull it off really well, and in a lot of these songs they do, but probably a little less than the first album for me. And, you know, who knows, maybe it's just going to take more listens and more repetition to sort of have some of these vocal parts click with me, but at the moment that's my feeling. All that being said, this band absolutely overall ups the ante in many ways on Stranger Heads Prevail. Incorporating so many styles and performing again incredibly well, and really just wrapping it up into this intensely goofy sensory overload of an experience. So I gotta give this New Jerseyan progressive metal band, Thank You Scientists, second record, new record, Stranger Heads Prevail, a 7 out of 10. And a definite recommendation for anyone who likes metal music, but really anyone who likes pop music as well. This runs the gamut. So yeah, listen to this album. Let me know what you think of it. If you think it's better or up to the level of Maps of Non-Existent Places, their debut. That's what this channel is for, really. That discussion down there. Just facilitating it, creating it around music, because music's awesome. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this, and I'm excited to be back doing reviews. And I keep saying and. So